CCW reciprocity is looking more and more like a reality. Will your rights finally be recognized across state lines? You only need one driver's license. You can drive in all 50 states. So why isn't your CCW like that? Well, it's looking like reciprocity is actually a very real version. There's actually two versions, but a very real version has a chance of passing in Congress. And this is a congressional thing. This has to happen from Congress. It's a federal thing. Each state has its own rules and its own permit. Each of the states actually has to go to other states to work out a reciprocity agreement. So if you're the state of whatever, Wyoming or Utah, you have to reach out to 49 other states and say, hey, we'll recognize yours if you recognize ours, you know? And that is exactly why the federal government exists. The Second Amendment is clearly in the realm of the federal government. And these kinds of disagreements or agreements, it's exactly what the federal government's job is. So, H.R. 38. The House Judiciary Committee voted and it advanced to the floor really quick, which is a very good sign. You know, they had reciprocity in a Republican Congress under Trump before, and it died. But man, this went really, really quick. This is very unusual. But, you know, it's a different situation. We're now in a country where 29 states have constitutional carry, and it looks like there's going to be a 30th. I think is it North Carolina is about to become the 30th?
Yes, I believe they are.
So we're in a very, very different situation. We're in a situation where the president's administration has a civil rights division that is investigating Second Amendment violations. Very, very different than his first time around. So what's this mean? Well, in general, this is good. Everybody wants reciprocity. You know, I want my permit to be good in all 50 states. But there's a lot to think about. We don't really know exactly what it means. There's a couple of different possibilities. One is that it could mean that the rights of your state follow you around. So if you live in a constitutional carry state, you don't need a permit in any other state. That's one possibility. Another possibility is whether or not your state is constitutional carry, you still might have to get a permit so that you can show all the other 49 states that, hey, I got a permit. If you're here in California, does it mean that if you live in California and you have a Utah or an Arizona, that California has to acknowledge it? Well, it might mean that you have to get a CCW from your state in order for it to be acknowledged by other states. There's a lot to this. One of the other considerations is, you know, let's say that you live in California and you can get a Utah permit, okay? And then that Utah permit is good in all 50 states. Well, a Utah permit, which I've had for years, and folks get, you know, Arizona and Nevada and Florida.
Yeah.
The Utah permit is super easy to get, right?
Right.
So it's going to put a lot of people out of business. It's going to put a lot of instructors out of business, which you kind of have mixed feelings about, right? I mean, we have our rights, but geez, I don't know. So there's a lot to consider on this thing.
Well, I think one of the interesting pieces about the HR 38 text is that it mentions specifically that the person has to be carrying a valid license or permit, which is issued pursuant to the law of the state and which permits the person to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which the person resides.
Right.
So it sounds like you would need. Go ahead.
I was going to say that. So that is the current reading. You know, that's the current like how that could change today.
Change
next week.
Yes.
So, and I think that's probably the most likely scenario.
Right.
And you were going to say it sounds like you have to have a permit from
in your state, which I would argue is not necessarily the fairest way to do reciprocity. Because if I live in a very difficult state to get a CCW, but I go and I travel to a state where it's very easy to get a permit, why can't I carry a gun in that state? You know, the reciprocity thing can almost make it more challenging for people who are coming from a non-friendly CCW state and traveling through a friendly CCW state, because you have to wait until you get a resident permit in the state you reside. So it's a little tricky.
I agree. I think that it was. I don't think that's what they want.
No.
You know, the authors. I think that that's what they think will be the least likely to get struck down in court.
Right. Agreed completely.
Which
I think
is
we
another.
We have to start somewhere. I think this is a good place to start. Yeah. Whether or not this is the end game, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, the gun community, we're really bad. We do a lot of things. We make mountains out of molehills. You know, and the other thing is what's that saying? The enemy of good is great, or something like that, or great is the enemy of good, or
I think it's like perfect is, or good is the perfect is the enemy of good, right? Like if
Yeah.
you strive for perfection, you miss out on a lot of good things along the way.
So I know there's a lot of people that are super dedicated to the Second Amendment that are going, hey, this ain't good enough, so I'm just going to fold my arms and sit there on the sidelines. There really is a lot more. I totally, by the way, respect their passion, but there is a lot to be said, and there's a lot of evidence that incremental improvements has worked. And so if we get some form of reciprocity, whether it's the exact way HR 38 is written now or it's slightly different, whatever, it's a great step forward.
Yes.
It's a win.
Yeah, this is a huge win. Yeah, I am not saying that we should be upset about HR. This is a fantastic win. I just think that we may get some unintended consequences living in a state like California. It's going to be great for people who live in Arizona and want to come vacation in San Diego, but it may end up hurting people who are still in the waiting process. But that doesn't matter. Like, we shouldn't be stuck on that point. We should just be happy that we're making progress on reciprocity.
Making progress. And oh, by the way, we don't know what the Senate's going to do. There's a lot of jerks in the Senate. So there's...
What?
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. Okay, there are actually a few bills introduced in Sacramento. There were a lot of bills introduced in Sacramento this week. And we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them over the next couple of weeks, months, as they progress. But I got to remind you, once something is introduced in Sacramento or Washington, D.C. for that matter, very little you can do about it. Phone calls and emails, important, but on the scale of effective to ineffective, very ineffective. By the time a bill is introduced and it's being voted on in Sacramento, your phone calls and emails mean almost nothing. Their minds are already made up. So we're going to talk about them. We don't know what these bills are going to look like in a week, a month, 6 months when they're actually voted on, but we are going to talk about them. There's some great places out there that you can get some great information on them. I think probably the best is Copper Jacket. On YouTube, that guy does a great job of breaking down these bills, and I'm not sure how much more we could add to it, but we'll talk about it for sure. But really what I want to remind you to do is get active. We need to be prevention rather than cure. We need to get the right people elected on the local level so that they become the right people that go to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And step one is join. Join San Diego County Gun Owners, join Inland Empire Gun Owners, join Orange County Gun Owners, or join another group. If you don't like us, join NRA, or if you're not in those 4 counties that we cover, join NRA. They're coming back strong. NRA 2.0 looks like a very real and cool thing, but it's important that you get involved with activism. Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.